You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official Comedy Club for Kids podcast for all ages from 2 and everything in between. I'm Tiernan, like always, I suppose, and this week, listeners, I have been wondering about super glue. Do you know the special sort of glue that cheese sandwich brains, grown-ups, often use to stick, everything. You know, like when you break a toy, they fix it back together with super glue. When furniture breaks, they fix it back together with super glue. They stick broken ornaments together. They stick the cat to the sofa, their house keys to the ceiling, all of their fingers together, and pretty much anything else that you can think of, right? What I want to know is super glue the superhero for other glue? Like, do glue sticks, when they get in trouble, have to call, "Hey, super glue, help me out, I can't stick this thing," and then super glue has to put on a little... Oh, excuse me. That shouldn't be happening during the show. That is so rude. 1 second. Hello? Did I? I'm pretty sure I introduced the show properly, didn't I? Hang on. Let me just rewind and have a little listen. Hobbles and weebles to robbly knobbly, the affably comably, cobbly fably, podably fably albly, uglies falam, scrouch, tubals, blanche, ebles teebles. Ugh, well that was weird. Well, thanks for letting me know, mysterious caller. Right, well, I'm sorry, everyone. Let me try again. Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official Comedy Club for Kids podcast for all ages from 2 and everything in between. I'm Tiernan and... what is it this time? What, again? No, I'm so sure that was correct. Okay, if you're certain. Right, let me just go back and check. Well, howdy doody, pooples. It's time for Rudolph Noodles, the one and only Mushroom Explorers Club radio show for everybody with all types of hats from top to woolly, and it looks like a strawberry on your head, and everything else too. I'm Trevor Gravel, and... Well, that didn't make any sense at all. It didn't sound like me in the slightest. Okay, well, thanks for letting me know again, strange caller person. I'm glad you're keeping tabs on this. Okay, I'll try again. Third time lucky, right? Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official Comedy Club for Kids podcast for all ages from 2 and everything in between. I'm Tid... No! What? How is that possible? Yes, go on then. I'm 107% certain that I didn't though. Okay, look, I'll check this last time. Hold on. And words around podcast for sorry, I can't even listen to that all the way through. That is awful. Well, look, listeners, I'm so sorry again. I'm really not sure what's wrong with me today. Yes, you're right. I might try again later. Thank you. Have a little breather, and try something else for a bit. Okay, let's take a rest and look in the mailbag. This week, a huge thanks to Laughing Ninja, who gave this show a lovely review on Apple Podcasts, saying, "This is an amazing podcast. Dear Tiernan, can you read this out? I am a potato with hudda on the end, and I like eating toilets that are raw and have avocado chilies in them while riding a rhinoceros." Well, I am honoured, Laughing Ninja, that a potato like yourself took the time to review the show, even if I have to say I don't agree with your dietary habits. Raw toilets? You should grill them and have them with mayonnaise. That is a fact. But well done for eating them while riding a rhinoceros. That can be quite tricky, especially using a knife and fork. Then there was also this brilliant review on Apple Podcasts from Kira Poopmaster that says, "Honestly amazing. I have a great poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. I love farting hippos, and so should you." Oh, bravo. Bravo, Kira. Poopmaster? Poetry master, more like. Oh, wait, hang on a second, Kira. Poetry master? Just brilliant. I love that. Thank you for that very, very much. And don't forget, if you would like to review the show, you can do it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or by writing a review on a leaf and asking an ant to carry it to everyone they know. It really does help other silly billies find this show, so thanks to those of you that do it. And mostly, if you would like to send in a question that you need answered on Radio Nonsense, then, I really, really need some. The question pile is not only nearly empty, but it's almost in minus questions. So if you have anything at all that you want to ask, then please get your cheese sandwich brains, I'm sorry, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclub4kids.co.uk. And if those same grown-ups would like to help support this show, they can sign you up to the Linda edition on Apple, Acast Plus or Patreon for just $2.99 a month, and you will get an ad-free, Linda-free version, and every show you'll get one day earlier than everyone else too. Do also check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk as well. Okay, so... No! What do you want? But I just said loads and loads of stuff, and I said all the reviews, and I gave all the plugs. Fine. I will check. I honestly have no idea what's going on. This is so strange. Okay, I'm going to work out what's happening. You listen to this most importantest bit. You stick this noise in your ear holes, Scrubblies!
What would happen to the sound of the bell if we removed the air around it?
Returning to the podcast this week, it's the fantastic Charlie Vero Martin, aka Charlie Zero Fartin, global anti-fart campaigner, aka Chacha V's from the realm of the wild umbrellas, and as all our Catalan-speaking listeners will know you, una vegada le veig vera esternada a una cabra. But of course, Charlie, most of our listeners will know you for your undefeated reign as Global Extreme Conquer Champion, for your solving of the mystery of how shoes end up on top of bus stop shelters, and most famously for your series of history books called, I don't know, I wasn't born then, so stop asking me. Charlie, it's so nice to have you back. How are you doing?
Hello! Thank you so much. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm so glad that you've been paying attention to my CV.
Of course. It's hard because you're very busy. You do a lot of stuff.
I am very busy. And, I'm so glad that my master's degree in modern history has gone to good use with that book. Finally solving the riddles of shoes on bus stops and all the really important questions.
Your history, I'm not very good with history stuff because I tell you, I don't know how you feel about it. Obviously, you're a specialist in it. My problem with history is that it keeps happening. So you think you've learned all of it, but then like there's yesterday, and then there's yesterday again, or there's 5 minutes ago, and so there's always history. So you can never catch up with it. And what I liked about your book is you sort of went, I don't know, who cares? I wasn't there. And that's a lot of it. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's, I gained a lot of respect for that in the academic world, because that is often the only truthful response we can give.
Yeah.
People look at academia and they look at history. They look at a history textbook and they say, well, this is fact. And at the end of the day, sometimes... well, it's not, because you weren't really there.
Yeah. How do you know? Because I always think, like, you see, like the Colosseum in Rome, and they're like, this is where gladiators fought lions and did all this. And you think, it might be, or it may be they built it as a prank.
You never know, because you know what? You weren't there.
Yeah, weren't there. All those Romans could have been, it would be funny. We build a big place and draw some pictures of lions in it, and everyone will think that's what happened, but actually we just ate soup.
Yep. I mean, so many things in history were pranks. A lot of them, lots of very clever people have done a lot of research and, talked to a lot of people and read a lot of things. And most of it probably is true. But every now and then, sometimes it's good to question. It's good to question. And there's a whole chapter of historians who just sit around and argue about when history was.
Really?
Does yesterday count as history? How far back? Modern history at the University of St Andrews starts in 1450. That's what they've decided. That's when modern history starts.
Hang on, do they mean like on a clock? So is it 10 to 2 in the afternoon? Is that what they mean? Or do they mean the year 1450?
You mean 10 to 3. I'm
10
sorry.
to 3.
I'm sorry.
Oh
to be
my
pedantic.
goodness, I can't even tell the time. This is terrible.
We have very clever people listening who will be sitting here very confused by that. Sorry, listeners. He meant 10 to 3.
Yeah, I did mean 10 to 3. I got overexcited by when history was. Well, that's in the past. In the past, I got the time wrong, but now I will get the time right. So that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. But
as long as
they meant
as long
the year,
as you
right?
keep building towards the future.
That's what you got to do. Is that so? Yeah. So let's pretend I never said that. So did they mean 10 to 3, or did they mean the year 1450?
You know, I always assumed it was the year 1450, but now that you say that, I think I need to write another book. All about that question.
Because they say if 1450 the year is modern history, how is that modern? They didn't even have TVs or scooters, or toasters. Like, how is it like when you say modern? Like, what do you think of if I say the word modern, Charlie?
So I think their argument is that that's the birth of the printing press, but I agree with you that we've got a lot more modern things since the printing press. So do we need to have a more modern era?
Whoa.
For toasters?
Yeah, modern history.
Yeah, modern history.
Yeah, because then sometimes this is what confuses me. Sometimes people say postmodern, and I think, is that when you send things by email? Is that modern post, or is it when you just send things by airmail? I don't know what postmodern is. Like
postmodern, modern post. Wow.
Yeah, because people used to send things by, like, a horse would have to carry them on a cart, or a pigeon, or an owl. I think in some magic worlds they send owls, but in like current times we don't need to do any of that. So we've got postmodern.
Yeah, and there was that brief time where people used faxes. But that was mad. I think we've all just forgotten about that era.
Weird. And none of the listeners will know what that is, but there was a weird machine that would make all these noises, like, and then a bit of paper would come out of it, and all the text would be sort of blurred, and you wouldn't have a clue what it said, and then people would say it was important, and you had to file it somewhere. And I still don't really know what any of that was about.
Yeah, I think that's an era we've decided as historians to just skip over.
Yeah.
Because I technically was there for some of that.
Right.
So I could write a book, but so I didn't cover that in my book. I only covered in my book eras that I wasn't there for.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think that's a good, because you got to have a theme. I think you could then have a follow-up book where you were there, but you weren't paying attention. That's also a really strong subject for a book, isn't it?
Yeah. Wasn't there, but didn't really notice. Wasn't there, but I was eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
Wasn't there, but I was looking for my shoes. It's a whole series,
Honest
and I think
history.
it's again honest and authentic to the human experience. There's lots of things can be going on in the world, and some things we really care about, but sometimes you're just trying to find where you put your shoes.
I think that's really important, because without shoes, you're in a lot of trouble. How do you can't really go for a walk without your shoes on. There's so many
and
things.
if we can't put our shoes on and go out and do things, well, who's going to make the history? Yeah. If we all sit in our houses with no shoes on, nothing's happening, and then what are future historians going to write about?
Wow, that's deep, and it's so important, so important. I'm glad you're doing this, and I mean, I don't mean to sort of link this back, because I know there were separate works, but you did sort of point out, you did solve the mystery of how shoes end up on top of bus stops. Is that something you found out while you were looking for your own shoes? Were you thinking, I don't need to write about this history because I wasn't there, I need to look for my own shoes? Oh my goodness, they're on top of a bus stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? When you start thinking about it, you start to notice it everywhere. And I think you're right. That's what happened. I spent so long looking for my shoes, and then I was just seeing shoes everywhere. Um, on bus stops. Sometimes I did think about doing a second book because I had so much data on this. About, when you just see that one shoe on top of like a gate, or those, how you get those posts, on top of what you just see one shoe.
Yeah.
But my publisher and I decided it was better to hone in on just the bus stops for this edition.
That's interesting because it's one of the things I'm always curious about is how I can't work out how you lose one shoe, because do you have to hop all the way home? Is that how it works?
I guess so, unless maybe they have a roller skate on that one shoe and someone just pushes them along.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah,
they
good.
just skate on one leg all the way home. I once left one shoe on a train.
Just
and never got it back. Yeah.
How were you wearing them, or were they extra
not.
shoes? They were right.
They were extra shoes. I had them in a bag and I put them on the shelf above you on a train. And as I got off, I picked up the bag and a shoe must have rolled out.
Right.
So when I got home, there was only one shoe in the bag. One time, my best friend lost both of her shoes at a Radiohead concert.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? So she had to go home with no shoes, or
no shoes on? Her feet were very sore
and smelly, probably.
Yeah, very
horrible.
dirty.
How would you?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. So I like babies lose shoes, right? So I don't know if you've seen them do this. They're quite reckless. They'll often just, while they're being pushed along, they'll just take a shoe off and fling it somewhere. I get that, but when you're grown up, like you tie them on, or you attach them onto your foot. They've got things that mean you can't just slip a shoe off, and then you've got to still keep going. So I always wondered when I would see that one shoe, is it one shoe from a pair of shoes who's tried to escape by itself? Has it got sick of its, because it must be hard for shoes. They've always got to hang out with the other one. What if they don't get along? Does one of them have to just try and get out there and do its own thing? But you're telling me no, it's people who lose a shoe while wearing them. That blows my mind.
Yeah. And it's probably because they're paying attention to a lot of other things. You can't pay attention to everything all at once. So
do you think they're focusing on history too much?
I think maybe I think we've cracked it. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna do a second edition with this new revelation in it. I will credit you in the book.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I mean, I don't feel you have to. This has all come from your hard work, and obviously you started with the bus stop shelters, which are a particular. It's also one of those things that not enough people know about unless they're on the top deck of a bus looking down, or from a high window, and you can look on top of a bus stop, and there's nearly always a pair of shoes there.
Yeah, or if you're a squirrel.
Yes,
I think squirrels must get very upset sometimes because they move into a tree thinking, this is nice, I've got a nice view of a bus stop, this will be fine. And then one day they look out their tree window and they see there's a pair of shoes there.
Yeah.
And they say they didn't order that, but they're too small to move them. So
they're never in squirrel sizes, are they? Which is
no,
fair.
they have tiny shoes.
Yeah, I bet they do. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very hard to find.
Yeah.
Unless you're a squirrel, they can find them quite quickly.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Probably sort of buried with acorns somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, I think this is fascinating. I think it's people maybe have been losing lots of things because people sometimes say, where are my keys? It's like, well, if you weren't researching ancient Egypt, you'd have them. Whereas I lost that pen. That's because you're looking too deep into the Mayans' civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. The number of times I've misplaced my glasses just thinking about the Vikings.
Well, I can imagine that happens a lot. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot. Vikings are, I think. Do you know? You've reminded me. Vikings are. I always thought Vikings were like super exciting. So when I was like a kid, I always thought they have like horns on their helmets and they had like axes and rah, and it's all Vikings. We destroy stuff. And then when you like learn about them, mostly they just did farming. That is
Yeah.
not as exciting.
Yeah. A lot of braiding each other's hair as well, which is kind of nice, though.
That is nice, yeah. And beards. Sometimes they braided beards.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But it's less... It's a lot more chilled, basically. They were really
Yeah.
chilled, you know?
Yeah, the chilled Viking feels like that should be a storybook. Gregor the Chilled Viking.
Oh, I like that a lot. That's very good. That is very good. Yeah, that is. But then, you know, I suppose there's also thinking maybe they were pranking with all the sort of axes stuff.
Yeah.
And actually they were just chilling. Yeah.
Yeah, they were quite nice. Who knows? I'm sure there are lots of people who have done a lot of excavation, and you know, it's I love looking at you know, when they have all these drawings of what they think dinosaurs looked like.
Yeah.
Based on their skeletons. And then over the years they've discovered they didn't look they're actually more like giant chickens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even with today's animals, you know, they apply the same techniques of, if we just found the skeleton, this is what we think the animal would look like, and it's always got massive fangs and it's like really scary and dragon like, and then it turns out it would look like a rabbit. Like
Oh, do you know, does that make you feel like animals aren't trying hard enough? Because like rabbits, you know, they do okay, rabbits, but they often get eaten by foxes and badgers and things like that. If they were trying properly, you know, they could have fangs, they could have big scary eyes. They're not, maybe they're not putting in the effort.
Yeah, but then again, it's because they're quite chill.
Yeah.
You know? Why should everything be scary looking when you can just have a nice time?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and also rabbits are known for being very lazy. If you really irritate a rabbit, it can be very scary if it wants to be.
Sure.
So you are right. There may be just it's a choice, you know. Sometimes you've got to decide: am I going to look really, really scary today, or am I just going to be a rabbit?
That's a nice way. Am I going to be a chilled Viking rabbit? I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, Charlie, you know, as always, you know, we barely got to the subject matter of this week's show, but you've already educated, you've already informed. I'm hoping listeners are hearing this and it's already blown their mind. I mean, I'm worried they will have been paying too much attention to our conversation, therefore they will have lost their shoes already.
I'm so sorry if you all have cold feet. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, that could be a problem. But then maybe they shouldn't have been. It's their fault. They should have been listening. They shouldn't have been paying attention. So yeah. Well, look, I've asked you on the show again, really, and I'm so grateful you could do it. Because we have had a question that I think you are the perfect person to answer. But a bit like last time, really, I've got some admin questions for you first. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Good. The first one is, I think you're aware, but this is an audio podcast. So, like our listeners can't see you. They can't see your amazing hat. I am sorry about that. I should have warned you. But you know, they can hear everything and they tend to listen to it with their ears. They might listen with their bums, with their elbows. I don't really mind, you know, however they want to listen. And so I just wondered if you had a favourite noise that you could make for us. It's
a good noise, isn't it?
That's a wonderful noise. Yeah.
It's often the noise I give when I don't know what to do or say or think. Just go
It's a very good noise. It's quite hard. I imagine it'd be quite hard to interrupt that noise or really follow it
Yeah.
with any sort of question.
Mm-hmm. I think because everyone on a very human level just understands it.
Mm.
It's you know, no more has to be explained.
Do you
If that's how you feel, that's how you feel.
I do you think it would be good to get out of difficult situations with that noise? I feel like if somebody asked me like well, you know, did you eat the last biscuit? And then you just go meh. And like I feel like they couldn't yeah, they couldn't they couldn't do anything else about it, you know?
Yeah, also because it sounds a little bit like a motorbike. So sometimes it's good if you're avoiding situations, if someone asks you something and you just go "Meow," and you just run past them really fast. They think, oh, well, that wasn't Charlie, that was a motorbike. And
That's
you avoid the
good.
question.
That's really good. I never thought about the motorbike. I thought that's interesting. To me, it sounded a bit like a sort of, like a kind of not dull, but like a kind of like a sort of slightly bored goat.
Yes, yeah. And so again, it works both ways. If I'm in central London, um, most people, if I use the noise to get out of a situation, they think it's a motorbike. But if I'm out in the country, then I think sometimes they think, oh, that wasn't Charlie, that was just a befuddled goat.
Wow, it's such a useful noise. Did you?
It's very flexible.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you discover you could do it?
Just fell out of my mouth one day. Just came right up from my soul
Wow,
out of my mouth.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's really it's really a special noise.
I
and
recommend it.
Yeah, I hope listeners really do take that in and use it more. I'd like to hear more people use that actually. Probably not when I'm asking them questions. I'd find that really annoying.
No.
But when talking to almost, particularly, I think when talking to their own grown-ups, they should use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
You do have to go quite dead in the eyes with it and open your mouth very, let your jaw drop open.
It's good. It's good. It's like it sort of reminds me of like brain freeze in a sound.
Yeah, it's the vocalization of brain freeze.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I hate brain freeze, and
Oh gosh,
that's how
yeah.
it feels to me. Yeah. Always comes from all the best foods as well. Like when ice cream gives you brain freeze, I feel betrayed. I feel like, but you're ice cream. You're like the tastiest. Why would you hurt my brain?
Yeah, it's like the opposite. You know when people say, oh, every cloud has a silver lining? It's like the opposite of that because, well, this is a really good thing with a really, and the brain freeze is the horrible lining, the shadowy lining. Yeah. Every ice cream has a shadowy brain freeze.
That's the phrase. That's the phrase right there. Every ice cream has a shadowy brain freeze. That's an important life lesson. Wow. Well, listen, Charlie, that is an amazing noise. Thank you very much for bringing that to the show.
Thank you.
I don't think anyone has or probably will ever bring a noise that powerful to the show again.
Wow.
It was great. I love it. I'm going to try and use it in life. And the other thing I've got to ask you, of course, is that this show is suitable for people of all ages, except 100. Long story, we don't go into it. But every other age, apart from 100, this show is suitable for. And so I just have to check if there are any rude words that you won't be saying.
Bumhead.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to try really hard to not call anyone a bumhead.
Yeah. Is that hard for you to not call people bumheads?
You know, as long as they don't upset me, I won't be calling anyone a bumhead. But sometimes in life, you meet people and they are just really massively big bumheads.
Yeah. I agree, and I think it's an awful thing to call someone because
Mm.
I mean, for a start, it means that they've probably got bad breath. If you have a bum for a head, your breath is going to be stinky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And your hair is sort of fluffy bum hair. Like it's quite. There's it means there's some really, or you can't wear a hat. You have to wear pants on your head. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a bad time. Yeah,
But some people enjoy being a bumhead.
they do. Yeah.
And but we're not going to think about them. And I'm not that. This is the last you'll hear me talk about bumheads.
I appreciate it. I do have to check, because one of the things was people who are bumheads, do they have head bums? Like, is their head on their bum? Because that, like, how do they sit down? Because then it must be like you gotta sit down, but then you squish your nose and your face. Or do they just have the one head and it's a bum?
Yeah, they've got double bums. They're just so full of bums.
That's awful. Yeah, that's really awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the American, like, sort of, because we do have some of our listeners are in America and some I think some are all over the place, some are in space. I don't really know where they all are, but how do you feel about Butthead? Is Butthead as good?
Yeah, I think I hadn't considered the translation. Yeah, I think butthead might be even more rude than bumhead.
Wow.
Yeah, because you know how sometimes in the UK, sometimes we use rude words affectionately. So I do occasionally call my husband a bumhead, but that's okay because he knows I love him.
Sure.
But I don't think I would call anyone affectionately a butthead. I think that's just always got negative connotations.
Wow. So, in which case, I have to ask: are you going to be saying butthead during this show? I know you're not going to say bumhead. I will not be saying
butthead.
Right. Well, I appreciate it.
I'm even less likely to say butthead. Wow. I think.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate it, Charlie. Thank you very much for not saying bumhead. I certainly wouldn't dare say it on a show like this, and I definitely wouldn't say butthead either. So thank you for not saying that word too.
Yeah, I'm glad we've agreed on that.
Absolutely, 112%. I think even. Right. Well, Charlie, listen. This is the question. This is a big question.
Okay.
I've got to ask you, and this has been sent in by Just in Time, who I'm certain that is their real name. I think Just in Time is. I think their parents called them that, knowing that they had arrived just when they needed them to, probably.
Yeah.
Yes, Just in Time. And their age is they are aged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So what's that? Is that 12 million 345,678? Oh no, I've missed a bit. There might be billions. They're very old.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
They're very old. Okay. I'm honored. It's always nice to have one of the elders.
Yeah, well, you have to wonder, their surname's Time. Maybe they're from the family that invented time, the original.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't know because I wasn't there.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And that's, I think, probably the same, because I'm worried now I insulted them earlier by not knowing how to say what the time was. So maybe they've already switched off.
Maybe we can make it up to them by answering this question.
I hope so.
And they'll forgive you.
I hope so. Well, it's a big question, and I hope you're ready for this. I feel like you can do this, but Just in Time asks, I would like to know what would happen if cows ate all of the grown-ups in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a big question, and I'm glad you've come to me. So I have some thoughts on this. First of all, I'm just going to check in. Are we assuming in this world, right? So the cows have eaten all the grown-ups, which, to be honest, fair enough, because grown-ups have been eating cows for a long time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, even Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can understand why they'd be doing that. I'm going to assume that they've only eaten the grown-ups, so all the kids and all the other animals are as they are. They're fine, right? Are we thinking that?
I think so. I mean, that's Justin's only put grown-ups and very specific
Yeah.
grown-ups. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we really want to get into, because it's quite a gruesome thought. At what point do you become a grown-up and therefore get eaten by a cow?
That's tricky, isn't it? I think it's probably. I mean, some people say it's when you become 18 years old. I think it's more when you say really boring things like, "Can you just give me a minute?" Or, "Oh, have you seen what's on the news?" Or, talk a lot about the weather. I think there's other indications that you've become a grown-up.
Right. Yeah. You start paying taxes, and then the cows start creeping in.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Because I'm assuming this is an ongoing thing. It's not like maybe Justin's suggesting that one day the cows just go, that's it, eat all the grown-ups, and then after that they don't eat anymore. Like, people are allowed to become, or is it a regular thing that this is life now? When you become a grown-up, you get eaten by a cow.
That's tricky, isn't it? Because I don't know enough about cows, really. I worry if I looked into them, I'd lose my shoes. So, but they do. I know they spend a lot of time just chewing. So, like, when they eat grass, they have to spend a long time chewing it. So I don't know how they'd get round all the grown-ups, because they'd have to spend a lot of time just chewing and eating one grown-up. It would take them ages.
Yeah. But they're also not doing much else.
Yeah.
But then I suppose, I guess maybe Justin already has this worked out. His question is, what happens next? And I have two thoughts. There are two ways this could go in my book, right?
Okay.
That I've not written yet. Either the cows eat all the grown-ups and then go back to just being cows, continuing their cow lives. And then that means the kids and the other animals can do what they want without any grown-ups there. Now that's one scenario. I think the second scenario is far more likely, is that the cows eat all the grown-ups and then they take on the roles of grown-ups, all their jobs. So, all the grown-ups get eaten, and now your teacher is a cow. Your postman is a cow. The prime minister is a cow.
Yeah.
I think that might be the more likely scenario. I'm not sure. I'm just serving up both those scenarios. I would love to know what you think.
I think that's incredible. And do you know what? I'm going to go out there and say, I think the world would be a nicer place if cows had all the jobs that grown-ups had instead. Can you imagine if your teacher was a cow, what would you learn? You'd learn how to sit down when it's going to rain.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's all, and then you could play. So that's a pretty great day.
Yeah.
And if a cow was prime minister, what would there'd probably be more grass everywhere. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We like grass.
I tell you what, because all cows are female, for a while, a lot of activists have been saying the future is female. They're correct in this scenario.
Yeah.
Except the future is female because they're all cows and all cows are female.
Wow. Yeah, because you're right. They say only cows, so nobody's turning into a bull. Bulls
just
aren't
cows.
eating anyone and then for taking their jobs. Yeah, I don't know if people are turning into them. That's a different scenario entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I was just going to ask you because obviously cows eat the grown-ups, which means those cows aren't vegetarian anymore. But I'm trying to work out, because there's lots of different milks now. If you're vegan and you don't have cow's milk, or you can't have cow's milk, you might have oat milk or rice milk or almond milk. Do you think if cows took over, they'd insist on only vegan milk so they don't have to do, give anyone their milk? Or do you think they'd they'd be like anti every other milk because it should be only cow's milk everywhere?
That's, I think they're quite diplomatic, cows. I think they'd probably allow everyone to choose.
That's nice.
And some of them would continue still being, if you want cow milk, have cow milk, because they're going to be drinking cow milk.
Yeah, that's nice.
And they'll be making up most of the population now. So I think there would probably, you could still get oat milk and almond milk if you wanted to. But
nice. Yeah.
I reckon cow's milk would become more mainstream.
Here's another question for you then. In some,
Right.
And I'm going to say this with no real knowledge or awareness, but I know that cows are very special and holy in certain regions, certain countries. Do you think those cows would be kind of annoyed at having to then do a grown-up job instead? Because like right now, everyone's like worship them, treats them with a lot of respect because they're all. But then they might just have to become an accountant or accountant, or like or just sort of like, or work in a shop or something, and they might be annoyed that that's actually more work than they had to do before.
I suppose that maybe only the cows that eat grown-ups then take on grown-up jobs. So the cows that are already holy, and if they're happy just staying as a holy cow, they'll probably not eat a grown-up. They'll just say, "That's cool. You go do that. I'm good as I am."
Right.
I'm just gonna stay here and be a holy cow. Maybe they'll actually become, priests and things.
Oh, that's a point.
Because that's going to be happening elsewhere, where cows weren't originally so holy, but because if the grown-ups are gone, we're going to need someone to be priests and things and vicars.
Gosh, that's interesting. Yeah,
we'll actually end up with a lot more holy cows, I think, as a result.
Right. Wow.
In different religions. One thing I have, so I know a couple of facts about cows that might make it.
Yes.
So apparently, so I was thinking about cows becoming security guards because cows don't need to sleep much. Did you realize you always see cows sitting down, but you don't really see them sleeping? They actually only need, what was that? Well, they don't need much sleep. So
Right.
I thought they'd be really good at being security guards.
Wow.
However, they do need to sit down for up to 10 hours a day.
Right.
So they'd be awake and they'd see people stealing stuff, but they wouldn't necessarily chase after them.
No, but you've made me think maybe they'd be quite good at sort of driving lorries for a long time or flying planes that go on long journeys, because they could sit, but they wouldn't need to sleep.
That's so true. Driving trains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, they can do that. That's a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
That's
could
good. That's
they
perfect.
could watch they could watch all the TV programs that nobody else wants to watch. They can go sit in lectures and listen to people talk about things that no one else wants to listen to. Another issue is cows find it quite, so they have a really good field of vision.
Right. Okay.
And not, well, they also have a good vision of a field.
That's I was wondering.
I could see your brain about to say that. I only just thought it as I said it out loud. It's like field of vision, a vision of a field. So they have a 330-degree field of vision.
What?
They've got really good peripheral vision, but they find it really hard to see the color red.
Wow.
So I feel like they would maybe make good detectives, but probably not very good firefighters, because they wouldn't be able to find the truck, the fire
That
engine.
would be really annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, unless they changed the color of fire engines for them.
Yeah. Well, also they couldn't catch anyone red-handed because they wouldn't be able to see them. They wouldn't be able to see their hands if they were red-handed. But hang on.
That's so true. So
do you think? I know this is cow facts, but obviously, and obviously, no grown-ups are going to get eaten by bulls. But they always said like, oh, bulls see, like, you shouldn't wave red at a bull or it'll get angry. But maybe it gets angry because it can't see. It's like, what are you doing? I can't see it. I've got a charge to get closer to that so I can read it.
we have just. You're so right. You have cracked that.
Wow.
All these years, Spanish bullfighters, and it's, maybe if the flag was purple, the bulls wouldn't get so annoyed.
Wow,
they wouldn't get so close. They would just stay where they were and be like, oh, that's cool. You've got a really nice purple flag. I don't need to come any closer.
Hang on. You've also bullfighters, which I have to say, I don't think it's a particularly nice job. But if cows ate all the grown-ups, bullfighters would be cows, and then cows would have to wave flags at bulls, and then I don't know how that works.
They'd probably just have a dance instead.
That sounds lovely, actually.
They would do a paso doble.
Oh,
it would just be a lot more like Strictly.
Well, then this is much nicer. It's much nicer, yeah.
See, already, I think it is kind of a nicer world. Oh, that was it. I was thinking if they sit for 10 hours a day with but they're awake, they could be art critics.
Oh, yes, perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, they could go to the opera for 3 hours, watch all these really long films. They could go watch Oppenheimer.
They could do the Barbie Oppenheimer double easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily. But and they'd get all their sitting time in, and they could write all the reviews. So that's a good job for them.
Do you know what, Charlie? I have to say, I think when I saw this question from Justin, I was thinking, this is quite big. I don't really know how to, even sort of process this. You've made me realise I think the world would be a much nicer place.
Yeah, if we just let cows eat all the grown-ups.
Yeah. And I say this as a reluctant grown-up myself.
Yeah, I did wonder, is there some sort of ceremony where is it is it some kind of wicker man, like, or do the cows just sneak in and
I think they sneak in. I think no one would be expecting it, because you don't expect a cow to sneak in. That means they'd really catch you unawares.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. One day you're just sitting, you say, oh, we need to do a big shop today.
Yeah. And
then a cow starts nibbling at your ear and you think, fair enough.
Yeah.
It's time.
My time's come. Yeah. Yeah. It's it is both lovely and terrifying. This is what the scenario that's happened here is, both one that eventually is more peaceful, but at the time, especially for us grown-ups, it's really quite scary.
Yeah. But we all have to make sacrifices for a better world.
That is true. And a lot of cows have already done that, so maybe it's time to swap it around. Yeah.
I heard another thing about cows, which again will cement this feeling that you have.
Okay.
Or maybe this will put some people off. So cows, in order to reinforce friendships and relationships with each other, lick each other on the face.
Wow.
Now, that's not something I'm used to doing as a human.
No.
If I'm like, I really enjoyed our chat, Tiernan, but I don't know if I would want to lick you on the face.
No. No.
And I don't know if I would appreciate, but in a world where cows have eaten all the grown-ups, and we've said that we've basically decided that if in this scenario cows take over,
Yeah.
it could be a world where we all have to lick each other on the face to prove that we're friends.
That's horrible. Yeah, well, actually, we won't. We'll have been eaten, so kids will have to.
Well, we'll have been eaten,
so all the kids,
so that
they'll have to do it. And at least kids don't have beards, because that's my worry. Is I've got a beard, people would have to lick my face, and then they'd get a horrible beard tongue because they've licked a beard. Whereas kids at least don't have. But it's not nice. It's not. Yeah. Maybe I take it back. Yeah, this is hard. Well, I mean,
it's a hard one.
I think it's a big. I think what Justin's highlighted is how different a world it would be, and it would be good, but it would also be bad. Like it's not. Nothing's perfect. It's a bit like brain freeze. It's brain freeze all over again.
Yeah. Cows being in charge. It is the brain freeze shadow of ice cream. And
do you know where ice cream comes from? Cow's milk.
What?
Yeah, apart from vegan ice cream, obviously. But most of it, it's Well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, a cow running an ice cream parlor, they'd be really good at that job.
That's true, actually. That is true. Or a milkshake.
Endless supply.
Yes, yeah.
Milkshakes.
Yeah,
it would be like the 1950s.
Would you want to? Let's bring it down to this. Would you want to live in a world ruled by cows, Charlie?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
And do you know why? Also, because then I would hear this noise a lot.
What a perfect reason. What a perfect reason. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering Justin's very big question. I really appreciate that. And have you got a busy week, decade, century ahead of you? Not studying history, or what are you going to be doing?
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of potatoes to pick.
Right.
We are coming into winter, so I've got to get ready to hibernate.
Of course.
So I'm knitting a lot of jumpers, eating a lot of nuts, and you probably won't see me until the spring.
Sounds great. Sounds like a great way to do things. Yeah. Make sure you don't forget where your shoes are. You need. Actually, no, you won't need them in the winter.
Yes.
You're hibernating, so actually you'll be.
But I want to make sure when I wake up, I'm not looking for them for too long.
Yeah.
Slippers, and I'll need my slippers for hibernating.
Yes, very good.
I think.
Very good idea.
But thank you for that reminder.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you for coming back on the show, and thank you for answering Justin's question, and good luck with the hibernation.
Sure, thank you. See you on the other side.
The sound of this axe moves through the air in all directions.
Thanks so much to Charlie Vero Martin for so brilliantly answering Justin's questions while expertly ignoring all of history. Justin, I do hope you liked your answer, and if not, why not write it on a shoe and leave it on top of a bus shelter, and then I'll never have to see it. If you have a question that needs answering, then please do send in some ASAP, especially if you haven't before, and get your cheese sandwich brains, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. And of course, if those grown-ups would like to support this show, they can sign you up to the Linda edition via the button on Apple Podcasts or the link in the podcast blurb for Acast Plus or Patreon. It just is $2.99 a month. That is whatever currency you have, whether it's yen or dollars or pounds or potatoes or parsnips or weevils. It also means you'll get an advert-free version of the show, and every episode will arrive in your podcast app one day early too. Ooh! Do check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk as well. So, I've been doing some investigating while you listen to that, and... What is it now? No, I definitely didn't say anything wrong. Look, I'll even check that whole last bit. No, I didn't didn't even have a guitar. This is very fishy indeed. Who are you, mysterious talking voice, anyway? Who are you? Fred, the mischievous sound-warping fish that lives in my ear? What do you mean, Fred, the mischievous sound-warping fish that lives in my ear? The phone didn't even ring? This is all you just shouting into my brain? Well, that is enough of that, Fred. You just wait. And don't you come back. So, I'm sorry, I hadn't been saying anything wrong at all. It was just that awful fish that somehow got in my ear. This is so weird. But what a relief. I really thought I'd been going completely bonkers. But it's fine. It's all fine. So that just leaves me to say, bye! Pickled blueberries! No! You have been listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents. Radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense. It's the end.